This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
Featuring defense attorney, Hidden Killers daily contributor, and host of the Defense Diaries Podcast, Bob Motta.
Ultimately, he keeps going through all this stuff. The state's objecting. And Click was on there for about an hour and a half, you know?
Yeah.
And it was super compelling stuff. Like, I can only imagine how this is going to play out for a jury, because it's very compelling, you know? And it's like, when you've got potentially two different, so you've got the group of individuals who the defense is saying is responsible for this, and you've got one individual who the state is saying is responsible for this, and we know from the defense's memo that they're not going to be able to connect those two parties. Like, they're not going to find anything, and they didn't find anything on Alan's phone connecting him to these guys to where they could say, okay, well, maybe those guys are involved.
Yeah,
but he's the one who did the kidnapping. He's the one who was bridge guy. He's the one who got him down the hill with the gun. They don't have any proof of that, apparently, from what we know.
Sure.
Based on the defense's pleading. And the defense isn't going to flat out lie in a pleading. Like, they're not going to say that the electronics showed no connection between Richard Allen and Odinism, and no connection between Richard Allen and the girls, unless it's true.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just can't lie in pleadings like that knowingly. I mean, you're setting yourself up for getting massively hammered by the disciplinary committee. So that being said, you know, what we're left with are these two groups. We have the individual and then the group, and neither one of them is able to really pinpoint a motive, meaning the defense can't really figure out what the motive would be for this group of guys to have done this, and the state can't figure out what Richard Allen's motive would have been. You know, like, did he just leave his mom's house that day, decide to go out to the bridge and murder two girls where he's got no history of violence whatsoever? You know, and he just happens to run into two girls and all of a sudden decides to kill them and then stages this crime scene like that. Yeah, I don't, you know.
I mean, obviously, motive doesn't even need to be proved in this, but certainly is helpful to a jury. But if you're going to look at it from just the facts, you have one guy that literally was making confessions to his sister and friends about this, going into detail about it, and saying, if you find the spit, I can give you, like, why? This would be your main suspect. How did I mean, it's just kind of mind blowing.
People like to say that they think it's because he's like a low IQ guy, you know, that they're for some reason that discounts him as somebody who would be capable of either doing this. And to me, I mean, the way that I feel about it is, look, I think a guy with a lower IQ would be the guy who would be, maybe you'd quantify it as stupid enough to walk back to a cop and say, hey, if I spit on one of the girls, or you find my spit on one of the girls, and, you know, but I can explain it to you, am I going to be okay? That's for that guy. Like, a bright guy's not doing that in my world.
No. And the dumb people can kill people too.
No question. And I don't know if he had a hand in the killing. He could have just been a guy with a group of guys sitting there observing and, you know, putting the antlers on. They're like, hey, you got to do this and you got to do this.
But to never look into that angle of this, where you have real investigators, it's not like some obscure YouTuber who's like, this guy did this. It's like, in real investigators dug up this information, but they didn't want to go down that path.
I'll never get it, dude. I'll never get it. Like, that's exactly the thing, Tony. Yeah. That's exactly the point. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. But what we do know is that Unified Command decided not to investigate any of it, which to me, in the search for the truth, and if we're really trying to figure out who did this to the girls, how do you ignore that?
So is that incompetence, or is it a cover-up? And that's, the two can masquerade as the other pretty easily, and that's the weird part with this.
No question about it. So the Click thing was really compelling. He then tried to call Amber Holder, who was Brad Holder's ex, and Gull basically shut that down. There was an objection, and there was a sidebar up at the bench, which I don't know why, because there wasn't a jury in there. They could have just argued it right out in public, but they had a sidebar anyway. So, and we're at 5:30 at that point. So Baldwin's like, I'm done. It's like enough. Tortured you enough. And that was it. And so she took that under advisement, and that was basically the day. But that 2.5 hours, man, was something else, and like, oddly enough, and granted, on this, I've been very vocal. I'm not sitting here pounding my fists on the table, screaming Richard Allen is innocent, because I don't know. I don't know what all the evidence is. What I've been screaming about is that everybody in this country deserves a fair trial. I think that this has been just reckless, what they've been doing with respect to his rights. And I know what a weak PCA is, and that they better have more evidence. All of us, like, all we all want is to make sure that the girls get justice. And to do that, they have to have the right guy or guys or girls, whatever the case may be, the right persons. And just the way that things have come out has really caused me a lot of concern. That's what's happening here. To me, it smells of something else. Yeah. And, when I'm looking at these two defense attorneys, I feel like I'm looking in the mirror, because I know what it looks like. I know what attorneys that believe that their client is actually innocent look like. I know what they do. And this has all the earmarks of that, for me, I'm very much on the side of, let's let the defense do their job. Quit trying to kick him off the case. Quit trying to destroy this guy's rights for the benefit of the families. We don't want this to go to a second trial. Let's just get this thing to trial, have everybody just do their jobs, and let it lay where it lays at the end of it, And it's like, that's what I'm pounding my fist on the table about. So,
want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free,
so you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.